So, let me put it like this. When you ask, who is the greatest English Wonderkid of all time? Two names always come up, Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney. Lion face, but what about after them? Who carried the torch? Who followed in their footsteps? Some will tell you no one ever came close, but I have a different answer. One name. One story. Daniel Sturridge. It's almost criminal how his career is remembered. Streets won't forget, they say, as if he was just a fleeting memory. But make no mistake, at his peak, Sturridge wasn't just good, he was unstoppable. He was the most naturally gifted English footballer of his generation. For one electric season, he dragged Liverpool out of their banter era, sparking the beginnings of a dynasty. He was so good, so relentless, that some fans genuinely believed Luis Suarez, maybe the greatest striker of that decade, was replaceable. That's how frighteningly good Sturridge was. 44 goal contributions in 43 games. A better start than Mbappe at PSG. Only 3 short of Cristiano Ronaldo's record-breaking beginning at Real Madrid. And 5 better than Higuaín's start at Juventus. Those numbers are jaw-dropping, but even they don't tell the full story. Because Sturridge wasn't just a goal scorer. He was box office. A blockbuster striker who lit up every pitch he stepped on. High-voltage screamer after screamer, goals that left jaws on the floor, and a celebration so iconic that every kid in the country was copying it in the playground. For 15 months, he was untouchable, a genuine superstar. But then, almost overnight, the chaos began. Injuries, misfortune, controversy. And before that golden spell, his journey had already been marked by turbulence. Sturridge grew up in the middle of the toxic roller coaster that is English Academy football. He was watching Derby County as a kid, where his Uncle Dean became their record Premier League scorer. But the real influence was his father, Michael. Once a top prospect at Birmingham, Michael was considered good enough to interest Manchester United and Arsenal. But poor decisions and constant managerial turnover left him stranded in the academy, forgotten, never making a first-team debut. The pain ran so deep that Sturridge says his father never spoke about it again. But he didn't need to. The tapes were there. Daniel saw how good his father was, and it ignited a fire in him. He would become the great one his father never got the chance to be. But that influence cut both ways. Yes, his father trained him relentlessly, put him in an academy at 7, and by 8, scouts were already watching him. Aston Villa snapped him up, but that's where the trouble began. His dad wasn't just a supportive parent. He used Daniel's talent as leverage. He demanded scouting jobs, forced contract negotiations, and when Villa wouldn't comply, he pulled Daniel out of their academy. He dragged him to Coventry, sparking court battles over compensation. When that soured, he moved him again, this time to Manchester City, where another legal fight broke out. But in the chaos, Sturridge delivered. At City's academy, he became a legend. In the Nike Cup, the biggest youth tournament on the planet with 8,000 teams from 43 countries, Sturridge dominated. He won both top scorer and player of the tournament, something only Carlos Tevez had ever done before. And it wasn't a one-off, he bossed every youth tournament he touched. The following year, alongside a young Micah Richards, Sturridge scored 6 goals, 2 in the final, even though they lost. His talent was undeniable. City had no choice but to offer him his first professional deal at just 16. And then, as fate would have it, disaster struck. In his debut season, after smashing a hat-trick for the reserves, he was ready to step into the first team. But a cruel hip injury sidelined him for an entire year. By the time he came back, City were desperate for goals. Their top scorer barely had 7 all season, and Sturridge finally got his debut, his first goal, and a chance to make history. But from there, the roller coaster only went faster. Daniel Sturridge's rise should have been straight out of a football fairy tale. But instead, it became a saga of chaos, neglect, and constant battles. After bursting back from injury with 2 goals in his first 2 senior games, City didn't celebrate him as the generational talent he was. They feared the hype. They downplayed his brilliance, sending him back to youth tournaments as if scoring screamers in the Premier League wasn't enough. And yet, Sturridge just kept proving them wrong. He became the only player in history to score in the FA Youth Cup, the FA Cup, and the Premier League all in the same season. He dragged City's youth to the final, scoring in both legs, and delivered silverware against a Chelsea academy funded by millions more than his. By all logic, the club had their future striker. The truth. They ignored him. And then, football's great shift arrived. Sheikh Mansour took over Manchester City, and suddenly the young Sturridge was just another name buried beneath a mountain of signings. Even Joe, a striker who would go down as one of the biggest Premier League flops, got more minutes than him. They knew their mistake, giving him the Young Player of the Year award, but it was already too late. Sturridge saw what was coming: Tevez, Adebayor, Santa Cruz, and made the bravest decision of his career. He walked away. He refused to renew his contract, joined Chelsea for free, and triggered yet another courtroom battle between City and his camp. And while City squabbled over £8 million in fees, their golden boy slipped through their fingers. But Stamford Bridge wasn't much kinder. How do you break through when you're competing with Drogba and Anelka? You don't, you wait. You suffer. You survive. Even when Chelsea added Fernando Torres for a record-breaking fee, Sturridge had to swallow his pride and leave on loan. But at Bolton, he did what he always did: prove everyone wrong. He became one of only 6 players in history to score in his first 4 games for a new club, finishing with 8 goals in just 12 matches. He nearly outscored Bolton's entire strike force despite joining halfway through the season. Chelsea had to bring him back. Andre Villas-Boas saw his talent and gave him chances, even out of position, and still Sturridge delivered, scoring stunners, racking up double-digit goal contributions before Christmas, earning an England call-up. And then, chaos again. Villas-Boas was sacked. Di Matteo reinstated the old guard. Sturridge was frozen out. 8 minutes, that's all he played from the Champions League knockouts onward, watching from the bench as his teammates lifted the trophy. By then, Sturridge admitted he had fallen out of love with the game. He feared he would be forgotten, lost to football's broken system. And yet, his story wasn't finished. Because another move, another twist of fate, was waiting, one that would finally give him the stage he deserved. Liverpool, the very club that sold Fernando Torres to Chelsea, ironically became the one to rescue Daniel Sturridge's career. But in true Sturridge fashion, even his move to Anfield was laced with irony. Brendan Rodgers hadn't even wanted him. The manager's first choice was Clint Dempsey. Sturridge was a board signing. To many, Suarez and Sturridge looked like 2 players who could never coexist, both selfish, both relentless, both desperate to be the star. But when Rodgers was forced to play them together, football was given one of the most thrilling strike partnerships the Premier League has ever seen. From the very beginning, Sturridge lit the league on fire. 7 minutes into his Liverpool debut, he scored. In his first match against Manchester United, he came on at halftime and scored again. On his first league start, he scored once more, becoming the first Liverpool player since 1974 to find the net in his first 3 games. And 2 weeks later, he was thundering in screamers against Manchester City. Injuries cut him down briefly, but fate worked in his favor, because when Suarez was banned for biting Ivanovic, Sturridge finally got his shot as the main striker. He closed the season with 8 goal contributions in 6 matches, including a hat-trick against Fulham. Suddenly, Daniel Sturridge was unplayable, producing a goal or assist every 88 minutes, one of the most devastating strike rates in the league. And then came the season that would etch his name into football folklore. Suarez tried to leave, desperate to escape the media circus, but Liverpool forced him to stay. Thank God they did. Because when Suarez returned from his ban, we didn't get a traditional playmaker and finisher partnership. We got something far more dangerous. 2 complete forwards, competing and collaborating, pushing each other to be unstoppable. The result? Cinema. While Suarez was banned for the opening 6 matches of 2013-14, Sturridge carried Liverpool. 6 goals in 6 games. He won Player of the Month. And even when Suarez returned, Sturridge didn't fade, he soared. A run of 3 goals and 2 assists in 3 games. A sensational chip from outside the box to answer Suarez's hat-trick, as if to say, "Don't forget who I am." Even when a minor injury kept him out, he returned in classic fashion, coming on late in the Merseyside derby with Liverpool behind, and in the dying seconds, scoring a bullet header to rescue the draw. For a moment in time, Daniel Sturridge wasn't just good. He was one of the very best on the planet. Even as ankle problems began to creep in, Sturridge refused to be stopped. Liverpool were struggling against Stoke, ahead only because of a penalty and an own goal, when Rodgers turned to his number 15. Within minutes, Sturridge was proving once again that injuries could slow him down but never silence him. First, a clever assist for Gerrard. Then, just 2 minutes after Stoke clawed one back, Sturridge buried one himself. It was a statement. Even broken, he was still inevitable. From there, his season reached absurd levels. Sturridge began dribbling through defenses, chipping keepers with arrogance, and rewriting the record books. He strung together an 8-match scoring streak, something only Ruud van Nistelrooy had ever managed in the Premier League. Not Shearer. Not Rooney. Not Ronaldo. Not even Suarez. By February, Sturridge was sitting on 26 goal contributions in 23 games. The SAS, Suarez and Sturridge, weren't just a partnership, they were an apocalypse. Together, they outscored every single Premier League team that season except 4. Rodgers himself admitted what fans were already whispering: Daniel doesn't even need Suarez, he has every quality to be just as good. By the end of February, Sturridge had been crowned Player of the Month once again. And yet, just as Liverpool were leading the league with 3 games left, fate struck its cruelest blow. The infamous Gerrard slip. Chelsea punished. Manchester City pounced. The title dream collapsed. Suarez wept. And even though SAS had combined for over half of Liverpool's goals, even though both were at the very top of the scoring charts, history chose to remember only the heartbreak. They became the duo who almost did it, the foundation upon which Salah, Mane, and Firmino would later build their dynasty. Then came the World Cup. Sturridge scored against Italy, a sign he was still at the top. But when he returned, Suarez was gone, lured away to Barcelona. His new strike partner? Mario Balotelli. And his greatest enemy? His own body. Within 3 matches, Sturridge's thigh gave way. When he healed, his calf betrayed him. When that healed, his thigh again. 5 months on the sidelines. 32 games missed. And when he finally came back, a hip injury forced surgery, ruling him out for another half year. When Jurgen Klopp arrived, there was a flicker of hope. The German promised to build around Sturridge, Coutinho, and Firmino. But dreams don't survive broken bodies. A knee injury in October. A foot injury in November. A hamstring in December. One by one, his body parts betrayed him. Sturridge, once one of the deadliest strikers on earth, was being eaten alive by injuries. When he returned once again, Sturridge gave Liverpool fans one last taste of what might have been. 7 goal contributions in 7 games, enough to earn him a starring role in their Europa League run. He scored in the round of 16 against Manchester United, delivered a masterclass in the semi-final second leg with a goal and an assist to send Liverpool to the final, and then opened the scoring in Basel with a curling outside-of-the-boot strike. It should have been the start of one of the greatest redemption arcs in modern football. But instead, Sevilla roared back and ripped the trophy from their hands. Still, the numbers told a story of greatness. Sturridge had become the second fastest Liverpool player in the modern era to reach 50 goals, doing it only 3 games slower than Fernando Torres, despite endless injuries and substitute appearances. And yet inside Melwood, the whispers grew louder. Coaches and teammates questioned whether Sturridge truly knew the difference between pain and injury. His body had been battered, yes, but his psyche had been shattered. Once lightning fast, now he pulled his punches, terrified of the next tear. He had missed 614 days out of a possible 1,121. Liverpool could not rely on him. His last true high came that summer, when he scored a stoppage-time winner against Wales at the Euros. But he was only 26, and already running on fumes. From that moment, he managed just 38 more starts in his career, and only 8 full 90-minute appearances. The arrivals of Mane, and then Salah, pushed him down the pecking order. He became a bench option, then an afterthought. His desperate loan to West Brom exposed his fragility when he lasted just 78 minutes before breaking down again, never to start for the club. And yet, even on scraps of playing time, the talent still flickered. He scored a thunderbolt against Chelsea that won goal of the month. He struck against PSG in the Champions League, a goal that Liverpool needed to escape the group stage in 2018. He even left as a 2-time Champions League winner, the first English player ever to do it with 2 different English clubs, albeit unused in both finals. But within 3 days of lifting his second European crown, Liverpool released him. And then the final humiliation. Sturridge was banned for breaching betting regulations, accused of tipping off his brother about a failed transfer to Sevilla. Though Klopp defended him, calling him one of the greatest finishers I've ever seen, the world turned its back. A short-lived revival at Trabzonspor ended in disaster when the FA appealed to extend his ban to 4 months. His contract was torn up. The pandemic struck. And suddenly, one of England's most gifted strikers had gone nearly 2 years without playing. A desperate final gamble in Australia proved to be the last nail in the coffin. 5 appearances in 6 months, capped off by yet another injury, before he was quietly released. The verdict was brutal. Daniel Sturridge, once a genius who could score goals you thought impossible, simply wasn't capable of returning to football. A career of what-ifs. A peak that touched immortality. And a fall that football will never forget.